Welcome back, guys, to another video here on the channel. Today we're going to talk about FiveCard PLO preflop categories, and if you haven't played FiveCard PLO yet, or you haven't been exposed to the FiveCard PLO categories from the PLO Mastermind, then this video will turn out to be tremendously helpful for you to understand how to wrap your head around the huge amount of preflop combos that are available and you're exposed to in FiveCard PLO. So in this video, we're going to learn how to organize those hands, how to spot patterns in different nodes of the game tree, and we're going to jump into a bunch of training where I'm going to show you what the most important things are you want to pay attention to when it comes to common preflop mistakes. So if that sounds good to you, let's jump in. I will start off by comparing the three different games of Hold'em, 4-card PLO, and 5-card PLO in regards to preflop combos. Let's start off with Hold'em. In Hold'em, we have two whole cards, and that ends up making up 1,326 different combos. So in this instance, Ace King of Hearts and Ace King of Spades are two separate combos. The way we organize this in terms of preflop strategy and visualizing that strategy is by using the very well-known 13 by 13 grid. On the top left, you have aces, in the bottom right, you have deuces, and then you have all the suited combos and the off-suited combos. It's a very easy way to visualize your preflop strategy in Hold'em, and that's why it has been used for so many years. However, in PLO, you can't do that because there are just too many combinations. One might think by adding two whole cards to your Hold'em cards, your combo count is going to double, but that is very far from the truth. Let's have a look at how many combos we have in 4-card PLO. So in 4-card PLO, we have 270,725 different combos. And that already shows the magnitude of what we're dealing with here once we move to Omaha. And if you are familiar with the 4-card PLO Mastermind and PLO Trainer, then you know that we organize those hands into preflop categories. Those are buckets of hands that share similarities in terms of the way they play preflop because they're similarly strong and they have similar characteristical traits. Now in 5-card PLO, we add another whole card, and that is going to grow the combo count to 2,598,960 combos. And if you look at the factors here of multiplication, we move from Hold'em to PLO or 4-card PLO, and the combo count increases 204 times, so a massive jump, and then another 9.6 times when we go from 4-card to 5-card PLO. By the way, if you move to 6-card PLO, we are dealing with over 20 million different combos, and that also explains why it is so much more difficult and RAM intensive in terms of solving a game like 5-card PLO or 4-card PLO, even 6-card PLO in the future. You need much better computers because running through this many combinations pre and post flop is just requiring a lot more computing power than in Hold'em. So we're focusing today on 5-card PLO. How do we organize over 2.5 million hands before the flop? And the solution is the PLO Mastermind Preflop Categories. I'm going to introduce you right now to how the categories work, how the system is organized, and then we're going to jump into some training to display how useful it is to work with the categories in order to spot patterns much, much faster. So here is a look into the 5-card PLO Trainer. And this is what we call the default view. So in the default view, you see every single combo listed on top of each other. And on the right-hand side, you can see all the raising hands under the gun. And on the left-hand side, we will see all the folding hands. And you can imagine with the amount of combos in 5-card PLO, this is a very, very long list. And it's difficult to derive a lot of clarity and value from a list like this. So that's why we want to offer an alternative view, which is what we call the categories. Right? So there's a tab at the top, categories, and if we click on there, we head into the alternative view where you can see the categories that we are using. And this is the first level. We're going to discuss each level in a slower pace in a moment. This is what we call the first level of 6 different categories. And we can select each of those categories and open them up. And then it opens up into 2 additional levels, which can be displayed right over here. Now, with those levels in mind, you can also filter for an individual level, like in this case, by clicking the check mark and then using the filter button, and it filters you then all the way to those combos only. Now, if you look at the combos here on the right-hand side, you will notice that they are all very, very similar as far as the connectivity profile, the high card is considered, as well as the suitedness profile. And that allows us to have quicker takeaways because now we're bundling a lot of hands together that are similar, and that allows us to not only learn from one individual hand, but from a class of hands or a preflop category. So let's talk about these characteristics that all these categories share with each other. There are 3 traits that we look out for when it comes to carving out these different categories. First, high card strength. So you will notice that the categories share the same high card or very similar high cards in terms of the strength profile. Second, connectivity. So hands that are 5-card rundowns or 4-card rundowns aren't bundled together with 3-card rundowns, for example. And suitedness. So we have single suited hands and double suited hands and a lot of things in between that we will discuss in this video as well. So those are the 3 main pillars that we use in order to create categories: high card strength, connectivity, and suitedness. And the same 3 main attributes are also utilized to create categories in 4-card PLO. So if you are in the 4-card PLO Mastermind, you're very familiar with this methodology. What is up, guys? This is Fernando from the future. Quick interruption to mention that you can now use the FiveCard PLO Trainer for free. No credit card required. Just head over to PLOmastermind.com and click on Get the PLO Trainer Preflop Pass. You put in your details over here, no credit card required, and you can start today, right now, to train 4-card and 5-card PLO using PLO Trainer Preflop. So there is currently a free membership available. We're not sure for how long we're going to keep it open, but if you want to test 5-card PLO, the trainer, the software, and you want to make some gains today after watching this video, then make sure to click on the link in the description below or head over to PLOmastermind.com and get your free Preflop Access Pass today. Now let's talk about the 3 different levels that we use in order to sequentially go further and further down into the rabbit hole of creating categories. The first level is what we call the basic categories. In the basic categories, we are mainly differentiating between 2 things. We have unpaired hands, let's put it this way. We have hands that have a pair, 2 pair, or no pair, which we call unpaired hands. And we have another differentiator, which are if our hand is single suited or double suited. So how many pairs do you have, and is your hand single suited or double suited, is the differentiating factor of level 1, the basic categories. Then we have level 2. Here we have 24 unique preflop buckets, and those are unique categories that we craft that share a lot more characteristical traits than only the base level on level 1. So for example, here at the top, you can see a 5-card rundown, for example. So level 1 was unpaired double suited, right? All the hands below are unpaired and double suited. And now the level 2 category, the first one, says 5-card rundowns with 0, 1, or 2 gaps, right? So all the hands in this category will be 5-card rundowns that have maximum 2 gaps. So for example, Ace, King, Queen, Jack, 10 is a 5-card rundown with 0 gaps, and you can fill in up to 2 gaps anywhere in the hand, and it still counts towards this category, the 5-card rundown, unpaired double suited. And you will notice that those hands are raising 54% of the time when you're under the gun and folding 46. And then we go to level 3. So level 3 is then one step below that. Now, if we open up 5-card rundowns with 0, 1, or 2 gaps, we're now differentiating with suited variables. So level 3 is all about the suits. We already have defined the structure on level 2, which in this case are 5-card rundowns with 0, 1, or 2 gaps. And now we're only differentiating between our suits. So the first category here, for example, is called pure double suited ace high suit, right? So we have a pure double suited hand, which means that we have 2 spades and 2 hearts, but we never have 2 spades and 3 hearts. So we don't cover our own flush draw, so to speak. Those hands are called pure, and we have a suited ace. So in this case, it could be ace, king, queen, jack, double suited with an ace high suit, and the suits are pure, which means we have 2 hearts and 2 spades and a club, for example. The next one is pure double suited with an unsuited ace, right? So we might have the exact same hand in terms of high cards, ace, king, queen, jack, 10. But in this case, we also have 2 hearts and 2 spades, but the ace is the off-suited card. It's like a club, for example, in which case we're not going to make the ace high flush because we are not suited to the ace, right? So that category is obviously weaker. And you can see here in the under the gun RFI profile that the top category is raising 65% with the suited ace. And if we don't have the suited ace, we're only raising 50% of the time. The next variation is pure double suited hands without an ace, right? So for example, king, queen, jack, 10, 9 is one of those possibilities with 2 spades and 2 hearts and a club. That falls into this category. The next one are double triple suited hands. So double triple are not pure hands, they're double triple. We have 2 spades, 3 hearts, or 3 diamonds and 2 hearts. In this case, we're still double suited, which is great, but we are blocking one of our own flush draws. And if you compare double triple suited with an ace, where we raised 57%, and pure double suited with an ace, 65%, you can already see in FiveCard PLO, it's a pretty big deal if you do cover one of your flush draws or not. Both categories are structurally the exact same in terms of high cards and in terms of the way the gaps are created. They're all 5-card rundowns, but if you block your own flush draws, you are going to raise less often. So if you're new to 5-card PLO, it takes a bit of time to get used to really paying attention to exactly what hand you're holding in terms of the suit variables. So how does the system work? Well, if you go into a spot, like in this case, we are on the button and we face a cutoff open raise. We're playing 100 big blinds deep. We're looking at the default view. We see all the hands. One possibility to study, and we're going to jump into this in just a moment, is to use the filter at the bottom and type in Queen, Jack, 10, 9, for example, or Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 7, 5 cards. And what will happen is the basic view or the default view is going to filter for all the Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 7 combos. And you can see on the right-hand side are all the ones that are raising. In the middle are all the cold calls. And on the left-hand side are all the folds. And just visually, we can already take away a lot by just looking at it that way. On the right-hand side, you can see all the double-suited pure hands, right? So those are all double-suited hands that have, they're not blocking their own flush draw. So in this case, you will see at the very top right, we have 2 diamonds, 2 hearts, and a spade. That's a double-suited pure hand. In the middle, then, we do have double triple hands, right? We have 2 spades and 3 hearts. We have 3 hearts and 2 spades, as well as all the single-suited hands at the bottom as well. And then on the very left-hand side, where we are folding, we have at the very top the mono suit. So Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 7 with 5 spades. That hand is folding. It's, by the way, the same for diamonds and hearts and clubs, obviously. Those are all the same combos, because there's no relevancy to the exact suit pre-flop. There's no flop out there yet. And then all the 4 suited hands are also in there, right? So if we have 4 hearts, those hands are also folding, or 4 diamonds or 4 clubs. So this is one way of doing it, right? You can just type in your hand into the 5-card PLO Trainer, and you immediately see that exact hand with different suit variations, and you can draw some conclusions, which is a really good starting point. However, if you want to learn even faster and have a better view at a pattern, then we head into the categories, and we are marking out the category that is relevant here. So this would be an unpaired double-suited hand that has no ace and is pure. We're going to mark this one, and we already learned that 42% of those hands are 3-betting, 23% of those hands are calling, and 35% of those hands are folding. So we filter for that exact category. And now what we can see here is on the right-hand side, all the 3-bets of similar hands, right? King, Queen, Jack, 10, 9 with 2 diamonds and 2 hearts. Or below that, right next to my face here, is Queen, Jack, 10, 9, 8 with 2 diamonds and 2 hearts. So King high and Queen high, double-suited pure rundowns are 3-betting against the cutoff open. Then in the middle, you will see the cold calls, and the pattern here is pretty easy to spot as well. 8 high and 9 high double-suited rundowns or double-suited pure rundowns are cold calling. And then on the left-hand side, you see all the lower rundowns that are all folding because they're too dominated in terms of their suit value, but also in terms of their straight draw value, right? So if we filter by the category, we get so much of a bigger takeaway, because now we see all these combos and we can draw conclusions from the patterns. And that's really the power of using the Preflop categories from PLO Trainer. You can learn through the categories how to spot much, much bigger trends. There's nothing wrong about just typing in your exact hand and and getting a pattern recognition from the suit variations. But what I think you want to combine this with is the categories, because the categories can entail so many more combinations in just one go and allow you to just spot the pattern so much quicker. So now we're going to jump into a training in PLO Trainer. I'm going to open up the browser. I'm going to go through some common spots people make mistakes in FiveCard PLO using the category system and using the FiveCard PLO Trainer to give you right away some tangible tips on what to improve on and look out for the next time you play FiveCard PLO. So here we are in the FiveCard PLO Trainer, and I switched the profile to a 5-handed table. We also introduced 5-handed preflop sims because GG Poker plays 5-handed. If you want to play 5-handed, 6-handed, or heads up, we have preflop solutions for all of those at different amount of players on the table, 3 max, 4 max, 5 max, and of course at different rake structures. High rake structures with a high big blind cap and lower rake structures with a 1 big blind cap, as well as unconventional stuff, for example, where you do have an ante in the game or you have a straddle. Those are all common structures among apps, for examples, for FiveCard PLO. But in this case, we're going to take this relatively straightforward. We are playing 100 big blinds deep, there are no antes, and we are on the button. Our call frequency is 16%, 3-bet frequency is 8%. Now in FiveCard PLO, you will have a double suited hand a lot more often than in 4-card PLO. And when you move from 4-card to 5-card PLO, you might look at some of the double-suited hands and think those are snap 3-bets because they are in 4-card PLO. But in 5-card PLO, it is much easier to have a double-suited hand. So you have to be a lot more selective because some of them look pretty, but they're actually not strong enough to start building a pot. The main thing you want to look out for is nuttiness and high card strength when you are 3-betting. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to open up the unpaired double-suited section, and we're going to look into some of these 5-card rundowns we just saw in the video. I'm going to mark out one specific category, in this case, double-suited pure without an ace, which we already saw before has a 45% 3-bet frequency. And we're going to use the filter button. Now, after filtering, we will be able to see the strategy at large, and we will be able to draw some conclusions as we scroll down. But what I generally enjoy doing is I have a quick look at this, and then I'll jump into some training, because this is the most practical way for my brain to sort of problem solve and then become curious about researching more. So for example here, 9, 8, 7, 6, 4. So we have a 5-card rundown, double-suited pure, and we have learned now to categorize those hands. And we have one gap at the bottom, right? The 5 is missing here. So a similar hand to this in 4-card PLO, let's say you were to remove the 4, but you're still double-suited, is going to 3-bet at a very high clip. But again, in 5-card PLO, high suits and high cards are much more valuable, and therefore lower cards and lower suits are devalued. So I'm just going to call this hand, and if I'm curious about this exact range breakdown, I can just hop over to range, where we still have our category locked in the syntax, and we can look a little bit into what kinds of hands are calling and what kinds of hands are 3-betting. What could make sense is to filter this further. So we're going to say, let's say that we don't have a king, queen, jack, or 10. So basically we have a 9 high hand, and actually no king, no queen, no jack, and no 10. So we have a 9 high hand, and quickly we're able to identify that if we have a 9 high rundown, we're basically never 3-betting. There's one combination here that is kind of interested, which is the 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, which brings us to a next topic. If you have a double-suited pure hand, which all those hands are, there are some differences in suit variations. For example, this one is the best variation because you have the highest possibility to making straight flushes. And because we're talking about a solver, they're granular with their decisions. So 9-8 of diamonds, 6-5 of hearts is the premium combo of a 9-high double-suited pure rundown, right? It has no gap, and it has the highest potential to make a straight flush on both ends. Now, if you go into higher rundowns, you might see a difference in preference, right? You might want to have a king-high and a queen-high suit more so than having the ability to make straight flushes. So if we look into King, Queen, Jack 10, King, Queen, Jack 10, 9, no gap, right? We can see based on the EV which of those combinations makes the most money. And we see at the very top with 2.77 EV, that king of diamonds, queen of hearts has the highest EV. So as you move up in high cards, it's more important to make a king high flush and a queen high flush versus making a straight flush. But obviously, if you go down, as we saw before with a 9 high rundown, you don't really care about making a 9 high flush or a 6 high flush in 5-card PLO. They both are bad. You care more about making a straight flush at that point. All right, so we already learned a lot about 9 high rundowns. Now we have a queen high rundown. So queen, jack, 8, 7, 6. The first thing I look out for is how many gaps does our hand have, right? So in this case, a 10 and a 9 is missing. And also the gap in this case is 2 cards next to each other. And that means it will be a lot more difficult to make a straight because we're missing 2 cards next to each other versus if our hand is a bit more spread and has gaps at different points. So I don't think, basically what happens with this hand, I'm not sure if this is the 3-bet or a call, but what happens with this hand is that we do lose some nuttiness because we have a missing 10 and a 9. And that is actually one of the reasons to play this hand more aggressive pre-flop, because when we lose nuttiness, we have less incentive to draw more people in. So the nuttiness of the straight draws we lose here, I think, is going to push us more towards 3-betting. And that is correct. It is a little bit close. The EV difference is only 3 big blinds per 100. But let's observe and see how queen, jack, 8, 7, 6, not this exact hand, but how do we play queen, jack without a king, and have a look at some of these possibilities here. So sure, when we are perfectly connected and we have no gap, we're going to be 3-betting a lot. So we can go quickly into queen, jack, 10, 9, 8. And we will, queen, that's too many cards. Queen, jack, 10, 9, 8. And we will see that all those hands are 3-betting. So the suit variations in detail here don't matter. However, what if we have queen, jack, and we have some gaps? So you can head over to the info button right here. And you can learn more about the syntax that you can use. One of those syntaxes, it talks about gaps, right? So you can use $0G for 0 gaps, 1 gap, and 2 gaps. The hand we had was a 2-gapper, right? So let's say we do have no king, but we do have a queen high rundown. So we have a queen. We filter for that first. Now we're going to say $2 gaps, right? 2G. Now it's going to filter for all the combinations that have a 2-gapper, and we're able to identify, does it matter a lot where the gap is as far as our 3-betting decision is concerned? So on the right-hand side, we are missing a jack at the very top and a 7. We want to 3-bet that hand. On the left-hand side, very different profile. The 2 gaps are at the bottom. So if your top cards are all connected, what we can take away from this one here is that leads to a lot of nuttiness, and you want to draw more people in. As you start having spots, like a lot of gaps in the middle, and your hand sort of spreads out that way, you don't benefit from pulling more people in, but you have a wide range of flops you hit in a not so nutted way, and you prefer getting it heads up. So here are some examples, right? Like queen, 10, 9, 7, 6 is a hand that is very spread out, and you can hit a lot of flops, but not in a very nutted way. So again, another takeaway for us. We're going to move on with the training. This is a pretty trashy hand. We have a 9 high rundown. We already know we're not going to 3-bet. But also we have a bunch of gaps and we have a bunch of wheel cards, right? So we're going to fold this hand and we're going to investigate just quickly. What if we have 3 wheel cards? So we would have 2, 3, 4 or 3, 4, 5. So we have those components. What happens is we never 3-bet. And also, we only call 12.5% of the combos that have a 2, 3, 4 or 3, 4, 5. And it is going to be the most nutted one, so no gaps. And there's one gap here. No, there's no gap here. So what if we say we want to see hands with 1 gap? Now it goes down to 5.5. There's only 1 combination with a gap. So now we have learned if we have 3 wheel cards with those double-suited pure hands, then we basically can always fold. I mean, there's 1 combination there that is very marginal in profit, right? The second note we're going to look into is how to react against the 3-bet, right? So now this time we are sitting in the cutoff and the button 3-bets us at 100 big blinds deep. And the first thing we notice is that we don't fold very often, only 12.6%, which is lower than in 4-card PLO. And the difference can be explained with the equities and how much closer they run in 5-card PLO versus 4-card PLO. But that being said, we still want to be aware what hands are actually folding against the 4-bet and understand the logic. If we go back to the principles of how good hands are built, we have high card strength, connectivity, and suitedness. Those are the 3 characteristical traits. And if we lack quality or quantity of those traits in our preflop starting hand, then that is a strong signal of a hand class we want to fold. So let's make some examples. Here we have Queen, Queen, Jack, 9, 4. So we have a bit of high card strength with queens, but the quality of the high card strength is not that great. We don't have aces. We have a bit of suitedness. We have a queen high suit and a 9 high suit, but it's not premium. And our connectivity here, Queen, Queen, Jack, 9, 4, is also not premium. So if you have all 3 components, but they're very low quality, you very often have a folding hand. Sometimes you also only have 2 components or 1 component, and then you have a very obvious fold. So for example, here we have King, King, 10, 4, 3. So you have some high card strength, not super premium, but pretty much in the other 2 attributes, connectivity and suitedness, you score very, very low. So this is a hand class that wants to fold. Another way to think about this is to think about how dominated your hand is against the 3-betting range. And you will find a lot of ace-high hands that lack these other support factors like connectivity and suitedness are folding a bunch. They were good steals in the cutoff because they fold they block the 3-betting range and the continuing range in general. But now that you have been exposed to a 3-bet, you end up folding a lot of those hands like ace, king, 10, 10, 5 with 3 diamonds, for example. So pay attention to those single attribution hands. You can also go into the categories and then just follow the blue sections. The main thing I would look out for here is always think about how often those hands are in your preflop range. So in this case, 1 pair single suited hands are in your range 18% and you fold 32. So it's a significant one to learn and look into. On the other side, if you look at 2 pair single suited, only 3.5% and you fold 7. So when it comes to dividing the whole subject up into learnable elements, always think about how often does something occur, and then based on that, prioritize certain spots. I want to move from here straight away into the 4-bet line. So let's say that there is a 4-bet and now we're in position. It's a very interesting note as well. We are not going to fold very often whatsoever. We're only going to fold 3.5%. And what's cool about these hands here is that they're pretty easy to learn. Bunch of big pairs that blocked the 4-betting range and don't do that well going multi-way because they lack connectivity, and connectivity is a huge attribute towards nuttiness. So ace, king, king, non-aces is the syntax I'm going to use here. Ace, king, king, non-aces will be folding 69% of the time. And this will teach us 2 things. 1, don't call ace, king, king, unless you have massive support against the 4-bet, but also it teaches us that ace, king, king is a high frequency 3-bet. We're 3-betting a bunch of those ace, king, king combinations right here and play them quite aggressively, but then still back off against the 4-bet. You will lose a lot of money when you end up calling 4-bets with these unsupported ace, king, king hands. And lastly, to round this video up, obviously there's a lot to talk about when it comes to preflop strategy, but to round this video up, we're going to talk a little bit about aces. So aces in 4-card PLO, if you're in position at 100 big blinds, will 3-bet almost at a 100% frequency. But this is different in 5-card PLO because your opponent has so much more equity against aces, so your side cards matter a lot more. You need to pay more attention to the other factors. You are great in high card strength with aces, but are you also great in connectivity and in suitedness? Both of those factors are elevated in importance and in value in 5-card PLO comparatively to 4-card PLO. So when you make the switch, then always think about connectivity and suitedness and the quality of each. So here we look into the cutoff against an MP open, and we type in ace, ace. And we will notice that 28.9% of the aces are just going to flat. And if you look into the pattern right here, one thing you can do is just to head into double suited hands first. So we're going to head into double suited hand first. Only 9% of those hands are going to be calling. And you will notice that what those hands have in common are 2 things. One is they are oftentimes missing the middling parts of the boards. So if the board is queen high, jack high, 10 high, 9 high, a lot of the hands you're flatting and you're not looking to inflate the pot with, they miss those boards completely. So you lose a bunch of connection on a bunch of the middling boards. So oftentimes those hands are just going to flat. So hands like ace, ace, 9, 3 deuce, you have a lot of wheel cards. You have hands like ace, ace, 7-3 deuce, ace, ace, 10-5 deuce, right? So a bunch of wheel cards, even when double suited, are going to be calling. Of course, you can make this even more extreme by going double suited, triple suited. So double suited, triple suited, double suited, triple suited, like this. Actually, this is not double suited, triple suited. We're going to head quickly into this thing over here. No problem. Single suited, double suited nuts, high double suited, double triple suited. Yeah, of course. DTS. Here we go. 8.5% are now calling. So again, they are whiffing a bunch of the middling boards. Now we're going to head over to single suited. And again, we are now going to differentiate between single suited with the nut suit and single suited non-nut suit. Go back to this icon. Single suited N is going to be a single suited nut suit. So single suited nut suit still flatting 24.8%. And you will have the same thing. The main issue here is your suitedness value goes down, of course. You only have one suit. And connectivity is bad with a lot of the flatting range. And then as we go even lower into single suited non-nut suit, so that would be SSNN, we will now flat 60%. So by understanding the syntax and manipulating your syntax to worse and worse combinations, you're able to spot the patterns a lot more easily into heuristics, right? So you don't want to learn 2.5 million combos by just going through every single aces combo or even going down in the listing like this. You want to use intelligent syntax and categories to have heuristics to work with. For example, aces with bad connectivity and a non-nut suit is going to flat the majority of the time in MP. Like that is a heuristic you want to work with. Aces that are double, triple suited are only flatting like 8-9% if they are very disconnected and they have a bunch of wheel cards. Those are the main heuristics you're looking for to just make quicker gains when learning the game. And that's what PLO Trainer and the Preflop categories are good for. With that, we're going to close this video. If you did learn something about FiveCard PLO, then leave a like and subscribe. Also, let me know in the comments if you want to see more FiveCard content. It does take some effort, but I do gladly take the effort if you enjoy it and you derive some value from this. And as you guys saw already in the middle of the video, you can now test FiveCard PLO Trainer for free. If you get the Preflop Access Pass, no credit card required. Just head over to PLOmastermind.com and you get access to 4-card and 5-card PLO Trainer Preflop for absolutely no cost and no commitment. Take advantage of it. I'll see you guys around. Until the next time.